Most people think they're not making progress because they're measuring the wrong thing. They're watching outcomes, waiting for results, looking for visible proof. And when that proof doesn't show up fast enough, they assume nothing is happening. But progress doesn't show up where most people look for it, at least not at first. Outcomes are the last thing to change. They sit at the end of the process, after time, repetition, and adjustment. But we treat them like an early indicator. We ask, is this working yet? Do I see results? Has anything changed? Those questions aren't wrong, they're just premature. Results are noisy. They fluctuate. They lag. They depend on variables outside your control. So when you use results as your primary feedback, you're always behind reality. Progress may already be happening. You just haven't reached the point where outcomes reflect it. Before results change, other things shift quietly. Time, friction, recovery, hesitation, identity. These are the early signals. But because they're subtle, we don't count them. One of the earliest signs of progress is that things take less time. You think less. You start faster. You finish sooner. But because speed increases gradually, you don't notice it. You just assume, I'm still slow. You're not. You're faster than before, just not dramatically enough to feel it. Progress reduces friction. The task feels less heavy. The resistance before starting is smaller. The internal argument is shorter. But reduced friction doesn't feel like success. It feels like neutrality, so we overlook it. Another early indicator is recovery time. You bounce back faster. Mistakes linger less. Setbacks don't derail you for as long. But recovery doesn't feel like progress. It feels like still struggling. So again, it goes unnoticed. Pay attention to hesitation. Early on, hesitation is long and loud. You delay. You negotiate. You second guess. As progress happens, hesitation shrinks. Not gone, just shorter. That shortening is improvement, even if action still feels imperfect. Eventually, behavior stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like default. You don't decide. You don't hype yourself up. You don't rely on motivation. You just do the thing. That's identity changing. But identity shifts quietly. It doesn't announce itself, so people miss it, even while living inside it. None of these metrics are dramatic. They don't spike emotion. They don't create stories. They don't even invite celebration, but they're stable. And stability is the foundation outcomes rest on. When people don't see results, they assume the system failed. They stop. Right when the early metrics are aligning, not because progress wasn't real, but because they weren't looking in the right place. If you only measure outcomes, progress will always feel late. If you measure how long it takes to start, how much resistance you feel, how quickly you recover, how often you hesitate, and how automatic behavior feels, progress becomes obvious much earlier. not loud, but undeniable. Once you change how you measure progress, the urgency disappears. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop needing constant proof. You stop abandoning systems that are working, not because progress is faster, but because you can finally see it. You're not measuring progress wrong because you're careless. You're measuring it wrong because you were taught to look at outcomes first. But outcomes are late. Progress shows up earlier, in time, in friction, in recovery, in hesitation, in who you're becoming. And once you learn to see those, progress stops feeling invisible. It was there the whole time. This is subtle logic.